My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my list of the 10 worst movies of 2024. And this was actually a very difficult list to come up with. And before I get to it, I do want to mention that I did not see Harold and the Purple Crayon, and I didn't see Mufasa either. There's a chance that those movies could have made this list, but I didn't see them, so they didn't. Also, I do want to give a few dishonorable mentions to Stream, Trap, Sasquatch Sunset, Joker Folia Do, Madame Web, and Founders Day. I really hated those movies and I wanted to put them on this list, but these 10 just had to be the ones to make it. They just had to. So let's begin by talking about the 10th worst movie of 2024, and it's a movie called Babes. And I think I gave this movie a 2 out of 10, but the more I sat with it, the more I hated it. Like, the movie begins with a very pregnant woman who water breaks, and she just doesn't take it seriously whatsoever. And from that point on, my mind was made up. I hated these characters, I hated this story, I hated this movie. I just found it to be annoying and infuriating, and it's just a terrible piece of shit. The ninth worst movie of 2024 is a hot take, and it's another movie that the more I sat with it, the more I hated it, and it's A Quiet Place Day 1. I loved the first two movies, and the idea of a prequel taking place on day one in New York City was such a great idea, and it's like this movie was actively trying to be as boring as possible. The movie is never tense or thrilling. The movie never takes advantage of its setting. We never even see the characters learn the rules. We see, like, next to no carnage, it was just completely wasted potential. I do get the story they're trying to tell, but I thought every emotional beat just landed with a thud, and Joseph Quinn did nothing for me here, and I didn't like the ending. I prefer endings when characters choose to fight on, and yeah, so anyways, that's why it's the ninth worst movie of 2024. The eighth worst movie is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and I was actually kind of looking forward to this movie because one issue I have with every single Ghostbusters movie after the original is that to some degree they just remake that original movie. But here it seemed like they were going for something new, something fresh. So I was optimistic, and yeah, okay, I'll give the movie credit where it's due. It is new, but it's also dog shit. Like, first of all, this movie had way too many characters, and just most of them had nothing to do, and it creates serious pacing issues. This movie dragged for me so heavily that I was on the verge of falling asleep in the theater. And the movie is called Frozen Empire, and it takes us so long to get to that point. I found the movie to be cringy. I found the humor to fall flat. The movie is never thrilling. and most of the performances com- just felt empty. This movie felt soulless from beginning to end, and I had a miserable time watching it. The seventh worst movie of 2024 is a movie called In a Violent Nature, and this is a slasher movie told from the point of view of the villain. And that's an interesting idea. It is. The issue is that this movie decides to focus on him way too much to the point where we see him walking to each location and we see him hiding out in every location. And it just got old so unbelievably fast. Like 70% of this movie is just one character walking in the woods, and it's just so unengaging and so uninteresting, and it just took an interesting idea and executed it in the worst possible way. And then, like, the last 20 minutes of this movie, it feels like just focuses on a completely new character, and then the movie just kind of ends. And I felt like I wasted my time watching it. And I know that there's one kill that people just loved from this movie, and I'll give credit where it's due. The practical effects are very impressive, but the kill just pissed me off because this girl is standing at the top of a hill. Not a cliff, a hill. And she sees this obviously evil guy with a weapon coming after her, and she doesn't run to the left, she doesn't run to the right, she doesn't go down the hill, she just stays put. And then some of the most torturous actions are being committed, and she doesn't even react properly. So, this movie just bored me, it pissed me off, it completely sucks. My sixth worst movie of 2024 is going to be a hot take, but this isn't just the worst comic book movie of the year. Yes, even more than Joker and Madame Web, but this is one of the worst 3 comic book movies of all time. And it's Deadpool and Wolverine. I hated this movie. I am so tired of Ryan Reynolds' stick, and I just find him to be insufferable. He doesn't shut up this entire movie, and 99.9% of the jokes just completely fall flat. It's the most obvious gay humor, the most obvious toilet humor you will ever hear, and I just could not stand this movie. And when it comes to the actual plot, it's just a disaster. Like, the character work of Deadpool and how Vanessa is alive again because of the post-credit scenes in Deadpool 2, which I guess actually happened, but they break them up because, of course, they did. They have to do that with every movie character now. And then he wants to join the Avengers, and then there's... Oh, what did they call it? It's like this person who, if he's taken out of a timeline, everything collapses. And it's the dumbest idea ever because everybody dies. So, like, what? It doesn't make any bit of sense. And then it's just filled with a bunch of pointless cameos. And, look, I know some people were excited to see Chris Evans as Human Torch again. Some people were excited to see Blade and Elektra and, I'm drawing a blank. Gambit, Channing Tatum, that's what. Oh, and X-23. But they had nothing to do. They're just there for the sake of it. And, the way they use X-23 for Wolverine's character is so unbelievably lazy. They did none of the hard work here. They relied on the movie Logan and the connection they had in Logan, but that doesn't exist for this version of these characters. And the villain really sucked, and then at the end of the movie, there's a bunch of evil Deadpools that they have to fight for some reason, and then, oh, it turns out they're good, and then, I don't know, the whole movie was just annoying, it was unfunny, it's ugly to look at, it's a terribly directed movie. This movie just pissed me off. It was simply torture to get through. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but I fucking despise it. My fifth worst movie of 2024 is Megalopolis. And some people are talking about this movie like it's so bad it's good, but here's the deal. It's just so bad that it's bad. Adam Driver used to be a good actor, but what is he doing? He sucks in this movie. And then you've got Nathalia Emmanuel and Aubrey Plaza and Shia LaBeouf and Jon Voight and Grace Vanderweil and who else? A bunch of random actors, and it just sucks to see so many talented people in a movie this bad. There's so many ideas and plot points, and I just couldn't care about any of it. The worst word I can use to describe a movie is unengaging, and that's what this movie is. I just never cared about anything going on, and I never cared about any of the characters. To some degree, I can appreciate the ambition. Like, there's a couple interesting moments, but I just found this movie to be so difficult to watch, and it's one of those movies where it hit the point. Well, yes, I was watching the movie, but I just completely zoned out. It's shit, top to bottom. So that's why it's the fifth worst movie. The fourth worst movie is kind of shocking to me, but I hated, despised Cuckoo. Like, there's one cool bit of sound design, but they relied on it way too much, and like, that's all the movie has going for it. Once again, I found it unengaging. I never cared about anything going on. It's never scary. And it's just one of those movies where the longer it goes on for, the messier it becomes. And it just got to the point where I was totally checked out. Like, completely. I just found this movie to be insufferable. Hunter Schafer gave a very flat performance. Dan Stevens didn't really do anything for me here. I'm trying to remember this movie. There was like the cuckoo board and the weird sound, and they were in a library. I don't know, the movie's just a blank to me. The worst movies are the ones I find unengaging and forgettable and boring. So those are the movies that make this list. Which, speaking of which, look, I'm going to be the one person. Third worst movie of 2024 is Conclave. Sorry, this movie is a piece of shit. I know it's on so many people's favorite movies of the year list. It's getting nominated for a bunch of awards. But mark my words, nobody is going to talk about this movie after March. It is instantly forgettable. Instantly. It's about them, the church, Catholic Church, having to elect a new pope. And with subject matter like that, you have to try extra hard to make it engaging. And this movie just fails in every way. I didn't care about who got in. I didn't care about any of these characters. I didn't care about what was happening. This is the most boring movie of 2024. I just did not care. And, like, I don't get the praise for Ray Fiennes and Stanley Tucci's and John Lithgow's and Elizabeth Rossellini's performances. Like, they're not bad performances, but they're nothing impressive either. This movie is never emotional or interesting or anything. It's just a big or nothing movie, and it's one of those movies that I should love. Like, it's about faith and culture, and could be about so much more, but it doesn't explore its ideas in any meaningful, honest way. And it's one of those movies where it really feels like Hollywood is doing its thing. Well, the progressives are the good people. Their worldview is correct, and the conservatives are bad. And that's just not accurate to the teachings of the Catholic Church. If you're going to try and challenge that, then go for it. But at least be willing to have some nuance, and I thought this movie completely failed in that. And it just felt like liberal propaganda by the end of it, and I fucking despised this piece of shit. And once again, I know people love it, but it's going to be forgotten like that. My second worst movie of the year is The Strangers Chapter 1. And I actually love The Strangers, and I was like, okay, another one. Let's see what they've got. And we got a shot-for-shot remake, which just pisses me off, because number one is the first movie is good. It's tense, it's got atmosphere, it's creepy, and well-defined characters, and this movie just tries to copy that and completely fails. So while I was watching this movie, I kept thinking to myself, why don't I just watch the original? This is just the same story, some moments, shot for shot, the same, but done infinitely worse. It's never tense, it's never thrilling, and it just feels so lazy throughout. And on top of that, these characters are fucking retarded. There's a few moments where I was just like, what are you doing? Fire the gun. Why are you waiting like 2 minutes to fire the gun? Fire the gun! And I was like on the verge of yelling in the movie theater, fire the fucking gun. I'm okay with stupid characters in movies. It's a given with the horror genre, but you can't push it that far. And I found this movie to be boring, I find it to be pointless, I find it to be unnecessary, I find it to be soulless. It's utter trash, has no reason to exist, and we've got 2 more of them coming out this year. Yay. But the worst movie. And look, I'm just gonna be honest. A big reason why this is the worst is because of the one time. And it's Rebel Moon, Chapter 2, Course of Forgiveness, aka the director's cut of The Scar Giver. This was 2 hours and like 55 minutes. Very long movie. Also, a very shitty movie. Also, a very boring movie. And I found very difficult to watch. I was disappointed in the first movie, but I do like the way it began and ended, and I saw promise. So I went into this one with an open mind. But for some reason, they decided to keep this entire movie on like one location, so it feels smaller than the original, and it's just filled with some of the most generic, bland, ineffective action scenes you've seen. And I didn't care about any of these characters. I didn't care for the romance between Sofia Boutella's character and the one dude. And the fact they brought back the villain kind of seemed lazy and cheap, and they didn't really do anything good with that. I'm trying to remember it. Oh my goodness. What happened in this movie? Like, most of the movie is just one long action scene, and there's only so much action you can take before you just zone out, and that definitely happened here. Zack Snyder has made some incredible movies. 300, Watchmen, well, 2. And I also really like Batman v Superman and Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, so he can be great. I just don't know what's happening to him between these movies and Army of the Dead. He's just so bland and so uninteresting, and I don't know, it's just generic Star Wars ripoff 101. It felt soulless. There's no emotion, nothing thought provoking, not a single moment stands out, and it's very, very, very long. So that's why it's the worst movie of 2024. But that's my list. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin out.